answer is still no, Khalid.
The TARDIS key, Doctor!
Please, Doctor!
Do you really want to see your friends die?
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Foxtrot, come in, please. Golf Victor Foxtrot, come in, please. This is Heathrow Tower to Golf Victor Foxtrot. Please come in. Welcome to the 235th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 6th of December, 2017, and featuring Time Flight, written by Peter Grimwade and starring Peter Davidson as the Doctor, Sarah Sutton as Nyssa, Janet Fielding as Tegan, and Anthony Ainley as the Master. My name is Randy Ronson McCulloch, and I'll be your host for this evening. With me is our technical man, Mad Matt Winchell.
We're still bare bones. I'm drinking 0-calorie soda.
And Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Oh God, everything's on fire!
Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, will be absent tonight due to it being the end of the semester and he having a lot of studying and papers to do. Thomas Fireheart has not slept well the last couple of days and is out tonight due to fatigue. And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan will be in sometime during or after the news. So we're working on minimal staff tonight. We've done this before. We'll do it again. That means it's probably going to be a short show.
Actually, I don't remember the last time we were, if ever, we were this low on people.
We have been down to 3 before. It has been a while.
Not while live streaming, though, I don't think. I think that was back in the old days.
We have never been down to 2.
Never been down to 2. It's been at least me, Bill, and Randy.
Yeah, it has been, like, I think season 2 or season 3 that we've done it with just 3.
Vixie also says, by the way, stop calling me Shirley. We were looking to get that joke. We couldn't.
Yeah. It's amazing. Matt and I had the idea to use Airplane. Matt scoured everything, and it's just like, this is the perfect episode to make that reference, and no proper openings in the episode to use stuff. Yeah, actually, if we look at the majority of season 2, we were down to 3 for most of it.
Yeah. That's when the other 2 original hosts burned out.
But once Aaron joined us, we wound up at 4 and then eventually 5. So that's
actually 5, and now technically we're at flaking on and off 6.
Yeah. Anyway, so we can do it with 3. We've done it before. We'll do it again. And besides, we should be 4 when Tim shows up eventually.
Mm-hmm.
On tonight's show, we have the news, and there's actually quite a bit of news because it being the Christmas season. The BBC's promotional machine has gone into full swing, hyping the episode. On the other hand, there's been not much news other than that, so
we'll be plowing through it pretty quickly.
There'll be bits and pieces. We've got nothing for Geek Talk tonight.
I can throw in some stuff if we need to.
If we need to. I have no rant of the week. I've been busy getting ready to do cardiotherapy, so
we'll see how quickly we get to 11:15.
Mm-hmm. And of course we'll have our 5-minute challenge, although whose turn it is I don't know.
Tim said he'd do it last time.
Oh, okay, good. Well, let's hope he gets here in time.
Mm-hmm.
The episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So we'll move on into the news, and the first thing in our schedule is birthdays, and there's only a couple. Starting with the 1st of December, we celebrate the birthday of Deep Roy, who played Mr. Sin in The Talons of Wang Chiang, which we did not that long ago. He turned 60. Deep Roy is on this list as one of the few Who alumni to have scored the sci-fi hat trick, which I think I've mentioned before on the podcast. It means you have acted in Doctor Who and both the Star Wars and Star Trek franchises. Believe it or not, there are only a few actors to have done this. Deep Roy and Simon Pegg, I believe, are the primary two, and I believe there is a third.
A third, maybe a fourth, I think.
I don't think there's a fourth. I think there's a third, but I can't remember who it is right now. We haven't seen much of Deep Roy since reprising his role of Keenser in Star Trek Beyond, but we expect to see him if Paramount does make a new Trek movie, which I will talk about later. And we're expecting him to cameo anytime in the new Star Wars movies, or maybe even another guest appearance in Doctor Who. We haven't heard anything, but it's definitely not beyond the realm of possibility.
Matter of fact, if he is to appear in the Star Wars movies, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the same scene as Warwick Davis.
Possibly. He wasn't really an Ewok in the original. He played Droopy McCool, so I don't know if we'll ever see a return of the. We'll ever see a return of the Max Rebo band, but I would expect for them to sandwich him in someplace else just because he's frickin' Deep Roy and he's in everything.
I'm trying to remember his name. Deep Roy. Yeah, you mean Deep Roy. Both of them have been in the last two Star Wars movies, so.
Really? I don't see
There's
any
one
credit.
character to the other. I could have sworn. I'd have to look again.
I have not seen Deep Roy. I mean, I'll double check his IMDb.
At least one of them for sure.
I wouldn't surprise me if Warwick Davis, because everybody knows Warwick Davis was in Return of the Jedi. I mean,
everybody wants to remember which one he's going to be next.
But not everybody remembers that Deep Roy was in Star Wars. And he was actually in there twice. He was the stand-in for Yoda and the double for R2-D2 in Empire, and the body double for R2-D2. Actually, he was an Ewok in Return of the Jedi as well. He got all the freaking roles in that. But let me check his IMDb, because it does not mention he was in any of the recent movies on Wikipedia.
Anyway.
Star Trek Beyond, Into Darkness. No, he has not been in the new ones.
He's not been in the new ones yet. I know. I guess it's been Warwick that's been in all of them, but
he's like everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. At least in the original trilogy.
Star Trek movies. He had a cameo in Revenge of the Fallen, the Transformers movie that was the beginning of the end of the franchise. Let's face it, it was the second movie. It went downhill from there.
Yep.
He was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the creepy-ass Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but he was the cool part of it where he played every single Oompa Loompa.
Mm-hmm.
God, he's been in like all the new Star Trek movies, and he's like just been in bits and pieces all over the place. It was for a while there, in like the beginning part of the 20-teens, you couldn't see a geek thing and not bump into Deep Roy. I've been waiting for him to make some kind of a guest appearance on Gotham or the Flash Arrowverse. You know, he's that kind of actor now.
Pretty much, even though they kept him hidden for quite some time.
I'm expecting a movie where Warwick Davis, and Peter Dinklage all show up as their version of the Three Tenors or something.
Anyway, next birthday
is the 6th of December, and that would be Noel Clarke, which we recognize as Mickey Smith from Series 1 and 2, and little pieces of Series 4, I think.
Pieces of Series 4 and other little things here and there.
Yep, Noel's been busy. He played boxer Muhammad Ali in an episode of the television series Urban Myths. He played a bishop in the upcoming series Bulletproof, Mr. Maul in the film I Kill Giants, Stewart in the upcoming film Mute, and Sam Peel in the upcoming film Parenthood, a film he both wrote and directed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, Noel Clarke's career has been going pretty solidly. I mean, he won a BAFTA in 2009. And it's been up and up since.
Well, good for him.
So, happy birthday, Noel, and happy birthday, Deep Roy. Do you need a moment, Aaron, or are you okay?
You dying?
Just grab some water. The peanut M&Ms are trying to kill me.
That's what you get for snacking on the stream.
This is going to be her epitaph. The M&Ms killed her.
I'm not even allergic.
The chocolate killed her.
No, it was actually a piece of the skin is stuck in my throat.
Yes. But I would still make sure your tombstone said death by chocolate.
And peanuts.
I had a chocolate and I died.
Okay. So we've got Denmark is the latest country to be showing the Christmas special on the big screen this year. They've got.
Are you going to be okay?
I think so.
God.
Burns.
I need to pull away from the microphone. I need to pull away from the microphone. I might laugh myself. Oh,
The
God.
peanut M&Ms are literally trying to claw their way up my throat right now.
Oh my God, that's candy horror right there. This needs to be in a horror movie.
Yeah, this doofy little yellow M&M is just like. No!
This needs to be a Halloween M&M's commercial.
All right. So, I think I finally defeated it. With ticket sales site Kino now listing details about the presentation. And all the details...
all of it's in German. We are not going to try to speak in German.
Wait, Denmark speaks German?
It's Danish. It looks like German to me.
Das erste gedacht doch Christmas special
Okay, so it's probably more Norse now that I see the it's Scandinavian.
That's not quite German.
It looked
now I'm looking at it more.
I saw the way they spelled doctor and that looked German, but then I keep seeing the O's with the line through it and that's Scandinavian. So
Doctor.
Alright, showings will be 26th of December at 4 p.m., 27th of December 6:30 p.m., and 31st of December midday. Full details on how to book can be found via their website at Cinemax Copenhagen.
You do know that Scandinavian is related to German in the same way that French is related to Italian, in that they have a common proto-language.
I'm not surprised, but it's not quite right.
Yeah, we are talking, 1,500 years or so of separate parallel evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to say parallel universes.
No, parallel evolution. Because, the original Proto-Germanic people probably lived there, and then some of them went north to Scandinavia, and some of them stayed where they are in Germany, and some of them went and tried to conquer England a few times. But,
Everybody tried to conquer England. What's new?
That was somewhere, following before or during the Roman Empire. So they've had about 2,000 years now where they were up here, they were down there. But you can tell because both the Norse and the Germans have the same mythology. At least a variation on the same mythology.
Variation on it, yeah.
Yeah, but that means that it came from the same root, which meant they had the same root language. But like I said, 2,000 years of parallel linguistic evolution means that it's almost unrecognizable except for a few off syllables here and there.
Everybody's trying to conquer England. The only thing that conquered England was religion, and they got rid of that after a couple hundred years.
Well, the French took a good go at it. And they had a foothold for a while, and then England had a foothold in France, and the Norse had the Vikings, and they had come forward and
they just came looting for money, but they didn't really want to stay, at least not often.
Well, they had a thing where they would capture people and sell them to the Moors, and it's a bad, dirty, long history of people trying to kill people, and
people do.
All, of course, ending with Germany trying to kill England in World War II,
and the entire time Britain just gave them the bird.
And, then the Americans came in and, basically said, everybody behave. And everybody's been behaving at least until the wall fell. And then Eastern Europe started fighting with each other and breaking up and fighting. And that's mostly settled down now, except for a few locations.
Yeah.
Mostly. But anyway, so this Denmark is what, the third
or fourth, yeah.
Third or fourth country to have announced its cinematic opening for Doctor Who. So
the U.S. has announced it, right?
The U.S. has announced it. Australia has announced it. Canada has announced it. I think the U.K. has announced it, and Denmark has announced it.
So actually, we're up to 5.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone else announces it, like Germany.
Wouldn't surprise me if Germany announced it.
That wouldn't surprise me,
yeah. Bet you they'll do it like a week or 2 before Christmas.
You know what would surprise me? Is Japan.
Oh, that would surprise the hell out of me, since
that knocked my socks off if Japan suddenly did it.
They don't know what this whole Doctor Who thing is about, and they don't really care.
Except for the few that have actually looked into it and gone, this is amazing.
See my rant from a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Vixie says Canada with a Kappa face.
I always call it Canada.
He's allowed to mock Canada. His mother lives there.
Yes, my mother was abducted and forced to wed a Canadian, and lives in Medicine Hat now. So I
Does she really live in Medicine Hat?
That's the name of the town she lives in. Medicine Hat, Alberta.
It is actually a pretty important town too in Canadian history.
I'm sorry. Usually when I hear of Medicine Hat, it's from Mystery Science Theater when they're watching a Canadian movie.
Yeah, she lives in Medicine Hat. Although I think she's actually in California because they snowbird now. So she moves down to
so she's technically in California at the moment?
At the moment.
For warm weather?
Until the weather gets warmer again, and then she'll go back up to Medicine Hat.
Not that we have any snow. Not that I'm complaining.
Aaron said it was at least flurrying earlier.
He was trying to flurry. It's not going to stick.
Oh, no, it actually snowed. It's actually accumulated down here.
Oh, great.
Granted, it's accumulated in, like, the cracks and crevices of the sidewalk.
That means nothing.
Still.
It'll melt by tomorrow.
Yeah, as long as it melts before I have to go into my freaking follow-up for cardiotherapy.
It's either that or it's going to snow more.
Anyway, moving on.
Yep.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Alright, so there has been a massive demand for Doctor Who preview tickets. And this is, talking about the Christmas special, almost 35,000 entries or requests have been slotted for Twice Upon the Time.
We should specify this is for that special advanced showing.
Without the finished effects at the end.
Free screenings.
Yep.
Yep.
It's all in the north of England that they've got like 3 or 4 of these advanced screenings like a week or 2 ahead. I think it's missing the final scene or something.
Missing the final scene and maybe an effect or 2.
Yeah, so exclusive previews will be shown in 8 towns and cities in northern England.
8?
Yep.
I only thought it was 4.
They probably increased because of demand.
Starting with December 14th will be Hartlepool. Then York, Hull, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Salford, and Durham.
And then Bradford.
Yep, and then Bradford on the 22nd. And as well, ticket holders will be able to pose on the BBC red carpet alongside props from the shows, including Daleks and the TARDIS.
Okay.
Okay, so that's worth it.
It sounds like it goes through everything until Capaldi regenerates. But they're chopping out the opening scenes with our new actress, Jodie Whittaker, just because
they want to keep that to their chest.
They don't want to spoil that.
Interesting. So, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that'll keep them busy.
It's just like demand is going through the roof for it, and I can see why. It's a huge geek thing.
I saw this TTO that's actually supposed to be to apply. Visit BBC Shows and Tours website. Tickets will be allocated via random draw with 45% going to local postcodes, 45% going to the surrounding county, and 10% to the rest of the UK.
It's the Powerball of Doctor Who
if
tickets.
you live in the south of the UK, you're probably not getting tickets. I'm sorry.
You're bound.
Wah, wah.
And unless you have a nice relative that lives up in the north somewhere that can possibly get you tickets, and you can go up and visit them and then go to the show. But otherwise,
why
sucks
the
to be
north?
you. I don't know. They just chose the north. Maybe because it's a little more isolated than the south.
South Central UK? No. I don't know.
Anyway.
Maybe they threw a dart at the UK and said, okay, that's where we're going to be showing them. I don't know. They made that decision. That's what they're going with. I'm not in the BBC. I don't know their mindset for that.
Yeah. Not sure why they're trying to do the pre-release anyways, other than to get more attention, but anywho.
Alright.
Next one.
So, moving on. Twice Upon a Time, the time slot for which has been announced. It will be broadcast at 5:30 p.m. Christmas Day on BBC One.
That's a little early for it, but not bad.
Gives us plenty of time.
No, that's the UK's
That's
time.
BBC, so...
Yeah.
We're 5 hours behind?
Actually, where are we at this point? Because this is Greenwich Meridian. I actually do not remember where we are time zone wise.
6 is VC saying.
6 is usual, but I'm not sure with the change from daylight savings to regular where that goes.
So we might actually be 5 at this point.
Overseas, the episode is expected to be broadcast on BBC America and on Space on Christmas Day at 9 p.m. and on ABC Australia on the 26th of December at 7:30 p.m.
It's going to be airing at 9 p.m. here on Christmas Day. So actually, I should be able to catch the 9 p.m. release then.
That means that it's at 9 p.m. on BBC America? Jesus. That means we are going to be having a late podcast.
Because there's going to be no way I'm going to catch it any sooner because I'm going to be gone like a good half the day at least.
Yes, I know. But remind you, it's usually because it's a long episode, it's usually about an hour and a half.
Ooh.
On BBC America, which means it's going to be 10:30 before the episode ends, and we give everybody a half an hour to get ready.
Get set, yeah.
Yeah.
So that means we're going to be starting on Christmas Day at about 11 p.m.
Depends
and
on
going
what I
until
work.
1 in the morning.
Well, it depends on
but
when
it'll,
I
hey,
work. I may not be able to be on the podcast.
Hey, it'll be worth it though because we'll be the first people to release a review of it.
Not necessarily.
No, the UK people will be able to scoop us, but we'll be the first
UK
US
people. And how many of them are that popular? And how many of the popular ones actually release as soon as we do?
I don't know. I mean, I
honestly
don't know.
Okay, let me tell you, Randy, because they take almost a week to get some of the stuff that they do done.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is the reason I
How many followers do we have?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about not being popular. Well, we're popular in some of the British people I've seen. I can think of like maybe 2 or 3 names that of British people that pop up that people know anything about. Anyway. Yes, but you know how many more of them are recognized over there than over here. Either way, sure. We'll be coming at you about half an hour after the actual Doctor Who broadcast to bring our thoughts and our opinions on the episode. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Next. Aaron and I do not have BBC America at the moment, so we're gonna have to find another way to watch it. I'm probably over at Sarah's place. She has BBC America. Yeah, I know. But then you have to have a run like half an hour to get back to your house. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you probably don't want to advertise nefarious means on the live stream, so. No, but we'll figure it out. That's all I was. Figure out something anyway. All right, so we've got a whole slew. It is still me, right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It will never stop being me. Oh, it will. All right. So, Twice Upon a Time, we've got new pictures have been released here.
So, and
Nothing...
not quite sure. We've already read the synopsis.
Yeah, there's nothing really, really unusual about these pictures, except we do get to see them in the a classic TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
It looks to be the same set they built for
Adventure in Space and Time.
Adventures in Time.
Adventures in Space and Time, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. They might have expanded on it a bit, because I think there's more props there than we saw.
And it seems like the ground is really rocky and everything.
Well,
quarry scene.
Yeah, it's a quarry scene. I mean, we've seen how many quarry scenes, and we get to see Bill. And Bill gets to be in the classic TARDIS.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of old school props just kind of standing near the wall.
Mm-hmm. Probably recreations of the original props from that era.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look, I can see the two TARDISes in the background in one shot.
Yep, and you can notice the differences between them. The smaller one's the old classic 66 era TARDIS, and then the one on the right, of course, is the new model 11th and 12th Doctor TARDIS.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell if one's actually bigger, though, because they're not exactly next to each other either. I assume the newer one's closer.
You can tell because the newer one has that raised roof.
Yeah, the new one has the raised roof a bit, so it's probably a little bit taller.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I meant by bigger. I think it's also slightly wider, but not by much.
Not by much. Page and through...
Now, you do know that the real reason that the original model TARDIS was built so small was because of the studio it was being used in, right?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh,
hey, there's Tim, and we're only halfway through news.
We're not even halfway through the news.
All of a sudden, we reshuffled the news.
No, I'm not going to do that at this point.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I understand.
No, the old TARDIS was built for the Lime Grove studio, which was tiny, and an actual full-scale model TARDIS or police box wouldn't fit in the studio and let them do their work, so they built this slightly smaller, more cramped version. It's also why the doors swung in instead of out. Was that same reason, and that's just become an ongoing thing. Just a little bit of Production Who trivia for you all.
Yeah, I think in Whoverse it just kind of gets the feel of it being protective because you can open it from the inside more often.
But so yeah, we also get to see them all kind of hanging out of the various TARDIS doors. I can't tell if Hartnell is in the new TARDIS or the old TARDIS. I think it's his TARDIS. Yes, because you can see the door close later, and it doesn't have the St. John's ambulance logo that Matt hates.
This doesn't feel right.
And then in the last row, you get to see probably what's going to be one of Capaldi's final moments, standing in front of the steaming TARDIS, contemplating the end. Only this time with a better outlook than he did at the end of The Doctor Falls. And
hopefully.
Then we apparently Bill is going to be featured a lot more in here than they originally planned, because they're actually showing her in all the
next article, hon.
Because she's actually here with like the big four. So she's actually going to be a main list. Like, I don't know if they're going to have her in the opening where it's, going to be Peter Capaldi, and everybody, if she's going to be listed in the opening title, but we'll see.
It's really kind of a small cast. A lot of these Christmas episodes have smaller casts to them.
Really depends. I mean, if you take a look at like Voyage of the Damned, that had a pretty big cast to it.
Yeah.
That was like a shitload of extras and everything.
The Runaway Bride, I'm thinking of. This one here looks like there's only 4 people going to be in it.
The Runaway Bride actually had a fairly big cast too.
Yeah.
But most of them were incidental.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had Catherine Tate, you had Catherine Tate's fiance, you had the Queen of the Rachnos, and then you had all of Catherine Tate's and his fiance's families who were there for the wedding scenes. But the rest of the time, it was mostly those people.
Yeah.
And then Christmas Invasion had a fairly big cast, too, because you had all the unit people, and you had all the people affected by the blood magic.
Yeah, I guess.
Anywho.
And let's see. I'm trying to remember what the other Christmas specials were. Because it was...
Is that necessary? We are kind of rambling.
Yeah, we are.
Let's get going here.
Okay.
There's nothing really much in these pictures that, you know...
The shiny pictures that they are, but
they're mostly
we've
just
covered
TARDIS scene pictures and a couple of quarry shots.
Yep.
Nothing really that shows what the bad guys are, which kind of sucks because that's the big question everybody has.
Yeah, it's just like maybe there are no bad guys.
No, they're listed in one of the credit things about these frozen, enchanted glass people, but we have yet to see what they look like, which worries me. Because I'm afraid they're gonna be bad CG. Remember the snowmen?
Yep.
That was a whole bunch of bad.
Well, anyways, we won't know until we get there.
Yep. So go ahead on your last article on this run, Aaron.
Alright, so Pearl Mackey was originally not supposed to be in the script at all. So let's see here. Stephen Moffat admits that Pearl Mackey's bill was not originally going to be in the episode. I was just starting into the script, and we had Mark Gaddis's character, and we didn't have Bill, and I was thinking it's just proof of format again. You need someone to whom to explain. Not to explain it to the Doctor. That's not what the companion does at all. The companion makes it fun. So he reintroduced Bill in later drafts of the script, and then including moments where she gets to tease the current Doctor about his earlier guys played in the episode by David Bradley.
This kind of coincides what we heard, because when we first heard about the Christmas special, Pearl Mackey wasn't listed at all. And then we started hearing we were in it, and then we just kind of assumed it would be just a scene or two cameo. Kind of like Amy Pond at the end of Time of the Doctor, where she just showed up for a scene and did her line and that was it.
I wonder if this is going to be kind of like with The Moment with Day of the Doctor, where Pearl Mackey, like, Bill isn't really there, not even in her incorporeal form. It's mostly just a memory of her.
Like the Doctor's just seeing her?
The Doctor's just seeing her in his head, maybe,
and using her image or her memory as a way of working through all of this.
Possibly.
It's possible.
Possible, but the incorporeal form is just as likely too.
Going back to the pictures, we do not actually see... Oh, wait, nope, disproven. Going back to the pictures, second row at the end, we see her communicating with the first Doctor and Mark Gaddis's character.
Ha! So she's in incorporeal form.
So she is definitely there physically.
Images!
Yep.
All right. So she's going to be playing a part. Let's cross our fingers and hope they don't overwork it.
All right. So from our Twice Upon a Time news, we're going to Series 11 news. And Broadcast Magazine has reported that Series 11 is being shot with new cameras. These are supposed to give it a new cinematic or filmic look. It says that the Films at 59, which is a production house, has supplied Cardiff with Cook anamorphic prime lenses. And excuse me if I pronounce these wrongs. I am not a cinema buff as far as technical equipment. Angenu Optimo anthropomorphic zooms that will be used with Ari Alexa XT and Alex Mini cameras. And this is to try to up the cinematic quality of the broadcast.
Cinematic.
I'm a little worried about this because I know the use of certain cameras do not react well to some of the production work that smart TVs do. I remember the first time I watched Thor was on a TV that was in our in the club room of my place, and it looked, because I never saw that one in theaters. That was the only Marvel movie I didn't see in theaters.
Mm.
And I could tell you that it looked on that TV like somebody had filmed a high school stage production. Just the way that movement was kind of quasi awkward. I really can't say. I mean, everything that was in the movie was in the movie, but there was something that wasn't there. And it was because of this production work, the combination of the cameras and what the smart TV takes out left it feeling amateur and unfinished.
So in other words, smart TVs are actually pretty dumb and could screw up all of the fancy work they're trying to do.
I'm worried about that, yeah.
Good luck, guys. I hope you test it first.
And this is, by the way, some of the ongoing production changes that are being done by Chris Chibnall and Matt Stevens. And of course,
they're pushing for a lot of changes, and I'm not sure how well a lot of them are going to work at this point.
Well, apparently it's going to... They listed here as a major reboot for the series.
I don't think they mean reboot as in continuity reboot, but I mean, they're thinking production reboot. I mean, if you think about it, 2005 was an epic change from Classic Who, even with a 19-year hiatus, 16-year hiatus. But they're basically throwing out everything and starting again, which I'm not sure I like. I mean, because
that could lead to a lot of issues.
Yeah, we heard that Marie Gold was leaving. The brand manager is apparently leaving. And we know that a lot of the production staff was leaving. Apparently, Chris Chibnall is bringing in a lot of his Broadchurch production staff. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Also, moving on in Series 11 news, reports are coming in that filming on Series 11 has been spotted in Barry Station, Wales, Barry train station. There are no actual images from this, but a lot of people reported over Twitter, and it was confirmed by multiple people. Filming behind the station overnight, so there's going to be some night scenes. And filming is expected to continue here and there until early summer. So probably going to see a lot of winter and spring masquerading as summer.
We'll see.
Somebody has reported, and this is a rumor more than anything, that they might actually be going down to South Africa to film a little bit. When they return from Christmas break. So in January, they might be filming down in South Africa. That'll be interesting to look for, and I think it's going to be, other than the filming that they did in the United States, some of the furthest filming that they've done on Doctor Who. I would think it'd be cool if they went to film in Australia a little bit. Anyway, that's just the seasonal or the Series 11 news. Now we have some cast and crew news, and we will go back to Erin if she's not choking on an M&M.
Not yet. I have one right now in my mouth. I'm crushing it up.
So
and it's in the middle of the article.
Can you hear its tiny little screams of dismay? No! No!
Sausage Party 2.
On with the article, Aaron.
Stephen Moffat on why he never cast a woman in the lead role. Well, it's because of stuff. I don't know.
Because he can't write women anyway.
Okay, so he cites that he believed if he'd replaced David Tennant with a woman, it wouldn't have worked. It was too early. Moffat did admit that he could have replaced Matt Smith with a woman, given that his doctor was more sexless and less of a lad. However, I got obsessed with seeing Pierre Capaldi in the TARDIS. No regrets about that. Moffat is a fan of the casting of Jodie Whittaker, describing her as a fireball of mischief and irreverence.
Okay. So, I can kind of see his point. I I actually think he's wrong. If they had gone from David Tennant to Jodie Whittaker, it would have been a very interesting counterpoint. Or not just Jodie Whittaker, but any female doctor.
Yeah.
To go from the sexy male and then have it suddenly be a woman would have been a shock. So I think he's off on that one. I can, however, sympathize with the fact that he had suddenly had this option of getting Peter Capaldi being the doctor and going, oh my God, we're going to go with that. Because if you think about Peter Capaldi, he's this guy. He's won an Oscar, for Christ's sake.
Mm-hmm.
He's huge, coming off the thick of it. And he's a huge Doctor Who fanboy.
Who has longed to be the Doctor for ages. Has been not holding that a secret.
If I had been the showrunner, I would have been obsessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can't also knock the results. I mean, there's been some off moments, but season 9 was probably one of the more unbelievable series of Doctor Who we've had, barring maybe series 4.
Yeah, Capaldi has definitely owned it, and he's done a better job of it. There's been rumors of reprimanding from Capaldi to Moffat to how he wants to play the Doctor, and they've let him play the Doctor the way he wants to, and I think that's helped. So the effects are obvious, to be honest, between him and Matt was, let's face it, a little bit young.
He was a little bit young, and he didn't know much about Doctor Who.
He didn't know much about Doctor Who, other than that his parents really liked it, and yeah, so he's just not quite there, and so he didn't know really what to do. He was babyface for a good portion of that.
And the writing really let Matt down.
Yes.
He wasn't allowed to develop his character.
Yeah, I don't think Matt really knew how to develop the character properly, I think.
And Peter Capaldi would have had none of that. So yeah, he's made a lot better Doctor than his predecessor. I don't think he's more of a favorite to me than Tennant. Tennant's always going to have a special place in the cockles of my heart.
But he's definitely done what he could to help.
But at the same time, there's something very Baker-ish sometimes about Capaldi. It's like kind of Baker meets Hartnell.
Almost, yeah.
So you take Hartnell's grumpiness and add a little bit of Baker's oddness, and you kind of come up with Capaldi, which is kind of cool.
Baker's preference to the smile in the face of danger.
Either way, I've enjoyed Capaldi's run. It was not a bad decision.
It's definitely helped keep things afloat.
All right, so that's Stephen Moffat's take. Moving on, Aaron.
All right, John French would be a great Doctor Who, says former Doctor Who Tom Baker. All right, he feels, let me see here if I can get down here into the article. He says that he was thrilled so long as the girl comes over as an alien, a benevolent alien, she'll be marvelous. And he had a few other people I thought would be a good Doctor.
Not really. Mostly he talked about the previous Doctors that the Doctors that came after him, but are now previous for us. Like, and it was kind of interesting to hear Tom Baker's take on those.
Maybe they'll invite me back as her assistant in one scene or another. You think maybe he wants to come back to Doctor Who after years and years and years of not wanting to come back?
I think the outing with Big Finish has been good for him. Because he when he left, he had all these demons because of his issues with John Nathan Turner and the fact that he had this huge ego chip on his shoulder, that he basically held this grudge for years. He'd do conventions, but he wasn't really, he kind of had his I am not Spock moment. And I think working with Big Finish and basically getting to relax with these people that just love to do this and are doing it just for love of the show and not for any other reason has gotten him to mellow and realize, remember why he liked being the Doctor.
Yeah, he gets to shed all of that anger and disappointment, you know. It's what happens when you do a job that you really, really like for years and years and you wind up hating it?
Well, you wind up hating it because someone else took over your baby.
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm. And he finally gets to shed all that, and he just gets to be himself. And it's had him come to terms with Matthew Waterhouse and
Lala Ward. Geez, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they left on entirely bad blood. They just realized they weren't right for each other.
The both of them were too busy for each other. Yeah.
And she since remarried, so, and he's just him.
Tom's just Tom.
Yeah, he is my favorite Doctor, I would say.
He was mine until Tennant, and I don't know, there was something about Tennant that just clicked with me.
Tennant's a sugared up fourth.
He says that Matt Smith is the sweetest young man imaginable, and he made a great fuss of me when I came to do a cameo with Tom Baker as the mysterious curator opposite Smith in feature length.
Yeah, when he went to do the cameo for the 50th.
It's nice that Matt became enough of a fan that he went, "Oh, Tom!"
Yeah, he was lovely, and he's going on to become a duke or something now, isn't he?
Not quite, but yeah, he's Prince Philip, I think.
And of course, let's see here. He says about Christopher Eccleston. I thought it was amazing that Eccleston stayed so little time, just one series. I think that was due to a wonky contract that didn't take an option for an extra season. He's very rare. I caught a glimpse of him. He was a very powerful actor. I can see why he'd be pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
And he says Sylvester McCoy had a marvelous comedy routine in which he used to put a ferret down the front of his trousers, which used to make the audiences accidentally scream with horror.
Yeah.
Jeez. I'm thinking of Radagast doing that now.
I can see Radagast doing that.
Look, Adolf, look what I can do with this ferret. Oh, God.
I especially like Sylvester McCoy, who played the 7th Doctor in the late 80s. He's done so much wonderful work.
Yeah. And he also talks about the tensions between him and Graham Williams and John Nathan Turner.
He says, I think Graham found me pretty insufferable, which has often happened to me. He was quite opinionated. He was young and handsome, beautifully dressed and ambitious, and he felt that he knew something about comedy. I didn't think he knew anything about comedy, and so he and I had very delicate relationship.
Yeah, he doesn't mention JNT at all, even though he was asked about him, which tells you something.
No,
let's just avoid that one.
Doctor Who. He may have forgiven Doctor Who, but I still think the animosity with him and John Nathan Turner was there. Even now, after John Nathan Turner
forever in all of eternity.
Is long since in his grave.
But, actually, it's not pollution that burned a hole in the ozone layer. It's Tom Baker's rage at John Nathan Turner.
Yeah.
It will not heal until Tom Baker passes away.
Okay, so moving on. We have moving on to contests and auctions. Peter Capaldi has designed a new original cover for the first edition of The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka.
Are we going to talk about Jodie Whittaker keeping her Yorkshire accent?
Oh, I missed that one. Yes.
All right, so this is a Radio Times, so
I'm sorry. I jumped something. My bad.
Well, it's basically just she will be keeping her Yorkshire accent. So
yeah, that was basically it. When you said it aloud, that was basically it.
That's it.
I mean,
she's gonna be Yorkshire instead of Irish.
Well, we never knew because there's been such a history. David Tennant was asked to do an estuary instead of his Scottish, and Sylvester McCoy had to turn his down a bit. Christopher Eccleston was allowed to keep his Manchester. So apparently she's keeping her Yorkshire accent.
We're hopping accents all over the place.
Yep.
Did Peter Capaldi have to change his any, or was he?
No.
He was just allowed to be Peter Capaldi.
Because he recognized he was Scots, and if anything, he played it up slightly.
Yeah, he played it up more than the previous people have, so, yep.
Of course, if you want to hear one of the former doctors playing up a Scottish accent, watch DuckTales.
Definitely that.
All right, so as I was saying, Peter Capaldi has designed... He has designed a original jacket for the first edition of the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And if you haven't heard about this book, I mean, it's like Psychology 101 here. To raise money for House of Illustration. It's the world's only public gallery solely dedicated to illustration and graphic arts. I've never actually heard of it before. The auction will be at Sotheby's, London, on the 11th of December through the 12th of December. And it is a collection of 33 first editions of classic books. Each one has an original dust jacket, created and donated by leading artists and designers. And Capaldi has done art before.
Yep.
The classics include Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, Lewis Carroll's Alice Through the Looking Glass, Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, Kipling's The Jungle Book, T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, not what I was shown from T.S. Eliot, but okay. D.H. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers, and George Orwell's Animal Farm. And that's only a few of, like I said, 33. Peter Capaldi chose the Metamorphosis to illustrate. And he said, I chose the cover of the Metamorphosis I find the story so powerful, the imagery unforgettable, and the sadness at its heart completely human. The book is expected to raise up to £2,000 for charity. The charity works with schools across London on projects with young people to inspire creativity and enable them to communicate visually, overcoming language, literacy, and special education barriers. The all works will be on display at Sotheby's London, 34 to 35 New Bond Street, from Friday the 8th of December to Sunday the 11th of December. In total, 31 artists have donated to the sale.
Okie doke. Cool stuff.
All right. And if you're interested in something a little more down to home, Gadio, the UK's LGBT radio station, has started a contest offering the chance to have lunch with former Doctor Who showrunner Russell T Davies.
Gadio. I see what you did there.
I didn't do it. They did.
Yeah, I know.
This contest is being offered in aid of the Terrence Higgins Trust, hashtag #CRED, for World AIDS Day. The winner has a chance to meet Davies at a central Manchester restaurant for lunch. They will get an hour with the screenwriter, and it's Russell T. We should know his body of work by now. Queer as Folk, Bob and Rose, Casanova, Second Coming, so on.
Doctor Who, Wizards and Aliens.
A lot of stuff.
A lot of crazy things. He's a fun man.
The location for this will be Australasia in Manchester and includes a meal on a mutually agreed date before the end of March 2018. If you are interested in this, you can find details, terms, and conditions at the auction's website, which is apparently on eBay UK. All right.
Okie doke.
So, From there, we go to magazines and comics. Aaron.
All right, so here's your chance to get your hands on a collector's souvenir issue of the Radio Times, the cover of which will feature Peter Capaldi and the words "Goodbye to the Doctor," Peter Capaldi's emotional farewell episode. So inside the magazine, there will be a 6-page feature on the show, including interviews with the show's outgoing lead writer, Stephen Moffat, alternative first Dr. David Bradley, plus an item on Radio Times coverage of the 12th Doctor's era over the last few years.
It's not unusual for Doctor Who to get the December Radio Times.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, or actually it's the 9th through 15th Radio Times, the weekly Radio Times, but still, it's not unusual for the Doctor Who to get Radio Times cover somewhere in December, but especially on a Doctor finale season, they usually tend to cover this, so it's gonna
be a big one.
Yep. I honestly wish we could get the Radio Times here in the U.S. sometimes, but oh well.
Oh well.
I like that photo of him. It looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah, he looks fairly. You know, you see that look on his face, and it's like I'm sitting here. It's like if you shaved his head, he actually looks a bit like Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, to me, he looks kind of like a Sith Lord or something like that.
No, I mean the expression on his face and everything. It's very Christopher Lloyd, like Christopher Lloyd, Uncle Fester from Addams Family.
Yeah.
Kind of almost. A little too thin,
It could
though.
just be the red background with the black clothing that he's wearing.
No, it's the mouth.
No, I'm talking about me thinking of him as a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's just the red background. Actually, you know what he kind of looks like, and I've kind of thought this before with the hair. He reminds me a little bit of Beethoven.
Kinda.
Beethoven if he was played by Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd's Beethoven. There we go. All right, so now we're moving on to our Big Finish news.
Our one piece of it.
And yes, our one piece of Big Finish news. Big Finish has been massively quiet this week, but they did announce today that there is going to be a new short trip coming out next year. They don't give an exact date, I don't think. It's just October 2018, so wow.
And perfect timing of this announcement, by the way. In the middle of our Master series.
Yep, it is I Am the Master. It is, of course, Jeffrey Beavers. Actually, this would have been better for...
This would have been better about a week or two sooner, but overall, though.
Last week would have been great. Gives us, the inner thoughts of the Master from Jeffrey Beavers' point of view, because I think he wrote this as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Written and performed.
So this is going to be a thing. There will be more details available before it's released in October 18th. It is available for pre-order already at £3 from Big Finish. Wow, they are doing their pre-orders really freaking early.
If I had a little bit of extra cash, I'd think about it, but I'm also kind of tempted by the Jingle Jam. I'm waiting to see what else unlocks in that.
All right. So moving
maybe.
from that, we do have one piece of other sci-fi fantasy news, and this came out earlier this week. Apparently, famous film director Quentin Tarantino has pitched a concept to Paramount for a Star Trek movie. And J.J. Abrams is willing to produce it. What the hell?
Tarantino doing Star Trek, though.
Yes, I know.
Don't get me wrong. I know Tarantino is a big geek, but I'm not sure Star Trek's quite his thing to direct. I'm not sure.
Apparently, he says he has an idea for it.
If he has a really good idea, I don't see why you shouldn't get some writers to help him pitch it and finish it.
Yeah, they're not sure when it would film or anything. They're not even sure they're going to greenlight it, and Paramount's not made any word of it officially. But Tarantino has been chatting about it.
Tarantino's been chatting about it, and I assume since he's involved that Abrams has been mentioning it slightly too.
Abrams said he'd be willing to produce it. He apparently talked to Abrams about it, and Abrams is enough to get behind it as a producer. But it would mostly be Tarantino looking to write and direct, so I don't know. I mean, this is the guy that did Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, he did Pulp Fiction. He's done several... He did all Kill Bill movies.
He's wanted to do a Bond film, but the licensing behind that
just keeps flaking out.
No, it's hella strict.
Well, that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's very...
he wouldn't be able to make the movie... Tarantino wouldn't be able to make the movie the way he wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, and so it makes you wonder what he'd do with Star Trek.
Probably be the most brutal and bloody Star Trek ever made. This would be my first thought, but again, I don't know. Maybe he's enough of a Trekkie fan he'd actually pull it back willingly.
I don't know.
We'd have to wait and see. Actually, you know what? I betcha he would make one of the best Borg movies ever.
I don't know. At this point, I'd almost be willing to give a Star Trek movie to Seth MacFarlane.
At this point, yeah, just about.
Just because of how good he's been doing the Orville, I would love to see him do a
what I've seen of the Orville, he's recaptured Next Gen, so yeah, let's just give it to that guy.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for our news, and we actually did manage to drag that out for an hour.
Yeah.
Aren't we wonderful? There's no Geek Talk tonight, like I said.
We don't have time now.
I don't have a rant, other than winter sucks, but that's general. It's been freaking windy out here.
It has been awfully blustery the last couple of days. Today it calmed down a bit. Matter of fact, it actually kind of got warm in my room today.
I haven't heard the wind today. But the last few days, it's been howling like a banshee, and I mean literally.
It snowed out. Snowball fight.
Since we're kind of covering really quick things, we do cover.
I'm trying to cover 5 minutes worth of stuff, so yeah.
We do cover sci-fi stuff. Really quick mentions for a sci-fi movie coming up. There's Rampage, which I can understand the angle they're going with it, but I'm kind of leery about it.
I'm very leery about it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they have giant monsters that mash each other in the face, I can't complain too much, but I feel like they're going too far away from the actual base stuff again.
Yeah, that's my thought about it.
Speaking of veering very far from the base stuff, Randy and I have been watching Riverdale.
Yeah, that's kind of a love-hate relationship with me. I'm not a big Archie's fan, but I know enough about it that some of their decisions have really irked.
I enjoy it as kind of a messed up version of Archie comics. I've read a small chunk of the comics, so, and they are kind of just fun, lighthearted things to read. And the characters do have a bit more depth. For example, Betty and Veronica aren't always fighting; they occasionally, quite frequently, team up and are friends. So.
Yeah, that's not the issue that bothers me. The issue that bothers me is mostly how they've recast certain characters and thought how they relate to things. Mostly my main issue is Josie and the Pussycats, which are a major thing in the Riverdale thing and was their own kind of comics at the time, but they've made the statement in there because they decided to recast all the Pussycats as African American. That they called themselves the Pussycats as they're clawing their way up out of racial thing, and I'm like, no,
that's grown worthy.
No, the Pussycats were about having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going into outer space.
Only in
eventually.
Only in the Hanna-Barbera TV series in the last season. But no, even in the comics, they were about having fun. And I kind of felt that making it go that way was just kind of a...
Yeah, it sounds like they took it to too bleak of a place.
Yeah, the whole thing is basically, let's make Riverdale a teen emo murder drama with a little bit of... Well, actually mostly teen emo murder drama. They've basically Dawson's Creeked it.
And I was never a big fan of Dawson's Creek either, so...
And that does bother. occasionally make those 50s era-esque references.
Like Golly and stuff like that.
Jeez.
Let's go down. Let's go down to the diner for a milkshake.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, really? I don't know where to take this. I
like it because I like the mystery and some of the intrigue that goes on with the characters, and the parents play a larger role too. And the parents are not all terrible people, but they're very flawed people.
Yeah, not necessarily dated. People have milkshakes today.
Yeah, but it's the way it was said.
It's the way it's said, like it's a common thing for everybody to be going for milkshakes all the time.
Yeah, it really kind of deal. I mean, Aaron and I originally went for milkshakes after our most recent shopping trip. It turned into food and Sundays, but that's more a Wisconsin thing to go for ice cream in mid-December.
Yep.
Like Twin Peaks meets the CW Arrowverse meets Archie Comics.
It's not weird enough to be Twin Peaks.
Not weird enough. Yeah, it doesn't sound weird enough.
It is nowhere near weird enough to be Twin Peaks.
I like the murder mystery that's involved in it, though.
Yeah, but it's my main thing is those out of date references actually take me out of it more than put me into it. And I don't know,
it sounds like a very mixed bag.
For parents being assholes, I prefer Marvel's Runaways.
Speaking of Marvel, a new trailer.
Oh, the one for Infinity War?
Yep.
Yeah, that looks interesting. It didn't tell us much other than who's going to be in it and Vision's boned, but we kind of knew Vision was boned.
Yeah.
We kind of figured Vision would be boned, yeah. If you know anything about the stone on his forehead.
He's powered by an Infinity Stone. Thanos is collecting Infinity Stones. Vision is boned. Anyway, it looks interesting. It's enough to maintain my interest. I'm going to really wait till after Black Panther to gauge how well that's going to fit into the continuity and everything. Because that comes out in February. And then I think Infinity War is in May or June.
Oh, and just that little nod of Thor bumping into the Guardians.
Yeah. Well, we knew they were going to have to get in there somewhere because we knew they were in Infinity War.
And Thor is the logical guy to first meet them, I think.
Especially with the ending of Ragnarok, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm still not going to say much else about because it's still in theaters.
Yep. But yeah,
right.
it's awesome. I can't wait. This looks like it's going to be really interesting. We'll see how things go.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think we've covered all our bases for the most part.
So now we are up to our 5-minute challenge.
Tim.
I believe Tim volunteered to do it last week.
Yes, okay. So, is the clock ready?
Ready.
Right.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
A plane is flying into Heathrow Airport when it disappears. Meanwhile, Dr. Tegan and Nissa are like, "Well, we miss Cedric, boo-hoo." And the doctor says, enough of this crying shit. Let's go see the Crystal Palace. And here, we're in Hyde Park. And there's no, we're not. We're at Heathrow Airport. Oh, my bad. Let's find a newspaper. Oh, look what's happening. Oh, hey, bye. Oh, hey, security. Hey, well, what's this police box doing here in the airport? This is very suspicious. Oh, call Unit. Unit, they'll vouch for me. I'm the doctor. Oh, and give a hi to Brigadier Stewart. Oh, he's a general. General. Oh, it's the... Unit says this guy's the doctor, and we have to do what he says. It's like, okay, whatever. And... we have a missing airplane, so the doctor says, I know what to do. We need to recreate the event where the airplane disappeared, so we need another plane to fly into the thing. Is like, I thought so. It's a time thing. Something.
Dun dun dun.
And so now the doctor, Tegan, and Nissa, and the new plane have disappeared into the time corridor thingy, whatever. And at first they think they're in Heathrow again, but it's really, an optical illusion. And they run into this mud-faced man who says, yeah, work for me. Yeah, it's good, and the doctor says, "You'll never have the TARDIS." He's like, "Yes, I will." And then he says, "I have to steal the energy from these two gray-faced guys to build my spaceship." It's like, and then the mud-faced man blows his nose really hard, and he dies. But then, surprise! It's the Master. Dun dun dun. Dun. And so, after some back and forth, the Doctor and the Master say, "All right, I'll give you this piece of my TARDIS if you give me that piece of your TARDIS." And says, "Okay, fine." And they do a switch, but the Doctor fixed it so that whenever the Master goes, the Doctor will get there first, and then he sends the Master off to the planet of the gray transparent people that he was trying to steal the energy from, and the Doctor and Nyssa go off in the TARDIS and leave Tegan on Earth, and she's sad. The end.
3 minutes, 25 seconds.
Oh, what? Are we done?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
I think Brandy had a brain hemorrhage.
No. I just distracted myself. All right. So, what we liked about the episode, and the dice have loved you 3 weeks in a row, Matt. You're first.
Wow. It's been a while since I haven't been first.
It's the 3rd week in a row I've started out rolling a 3 for our review, and I started in alphabetical order, so you're the 3rd person.
What I liked about it the most. I like that the majority of the plot was straightforward and to the point. It wasn't trying to be really thick and lots of back and forth and silly hijinks to pad out the story. The story didn't pad itself. It went relatively smooth from beginning to end.
All right. Aaron?
Stuff that I liked overall. Trying to think. I do like the idea of the illusions and stuff going on. I think it plays very well into who ultimately was the main villain of the show, and just the idea of like trying to avoid thinking about them in order to not see the illusions and see the world for what it is was pretty neat. I do wish that they had maybe explained the Indian rope trip a couple of times.
They really didn't fully explain it.
Yeah.
They started to explain it, they cut away to another scene, and then they came back at the tail end of the explanation.
Yeah, and I think that was like supposed to be kind of the magician's secret joke.
No, that was
type of thing.
That was not really a magician's secret joke. That was the writers going, everyone knows what the Indian rope trick is.
Except for modern audiences who have no idea what the Indian rope trick is, other than the idea that it appears like 2 men climb up into the clouds and disappear. That's all I know about that.
Yeah, it's basically a trick where they fool you into thinking they've climbed up a rope that they just threw out of nowhere, but I don't even know the trick behind it, so...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a reference that was big at the time and completely dated now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about the good, not the bad.
Okay.
So, next would have been Bill, but Bill unfortunately is absent.
And didn't leave anything?
He hasn't left anything. He hasn't had a chance to watch it, so he will be giving his thoughts next week in small, as we shame him.
Shame.
Shame! Anyway, so Thomas did leave us notes. So what he liked about the episode overall was the fact that Nyssa and Tegan, though mostly Nyssa, are allowed to accomplish something they're on their own in the grand scheme of the serial. Especially given there's an episode where they basically just sit around for most of it. Okay. So, Tim, you're next. What did you like about the episode overall?
Overall, I thought the visual effects were nicely adequate, especially the bubbles. Oh man, I love the bubbles.
Scrubby bubbles.
Yeah, and also the effects of the two. What are the aliens' names? I'm blowing a blank. Like the sort of the see-through aliens.
The see-through aliens at the end.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember them too.
That started with an X, if I recall.
And,
it's
the xylophone people.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Time flight.
That was amusing enough, I think.
But no, we have to look it up because we're all anal retentive here.
Zerfin.
Yeah. It's almost like Zeraphim, but with an N at the end. I don't know.
N7M.
Okay.
Yeah. Zerfin.
Zeraphim, yeah. The Zeraphim were pretty cool. Good looking at that.
Also interesting idea behind them too.
So, what I liked of the episode was the continuity nods that they made to previous episodes within the last season or two. It was enough continuity that it felt like a continuous thing without going overboard, without continuity overload.
Yeah.
Because they made references to, of course, Keeper of Traken, which we had seen previously. They made references to the Visitation. They made references to Castrovalva. So it was a nice level of continuity nod, so I thought that was cool. And they were also supposed to be hints that it was the Master as the bad guy, because they were throwing them up from previous Master serials, except for the Visitation. But still. Anyway, that's what was good about the episode. Now for the bad aspects. Matt, what didn't you like?
Some of the visuals were really good, but some of the other visuals looked completely bunk. The scrubbing bubbles amused me, but they were very, very silly looking, especially when they would just randomly pop in from nowhere. I
hadn't thought about that for an opening, was taking one of those and getting one of those old scrubbing
bubbles commercials. We should have thought that, yeah. Also, there's these like 3 warty mask things with legs that pop up every once in a while. They look absolutely ridiculous. And the weird 2-headed thing that I'm not going to mention what it looks like.
It looks like bad CG or bad VSO overlay, really.
Well, it also looks a bit like something else too, but I'm not going to mention it in front of the children.
Oh, no. Nothing looks that bad until we get to the Vervoids.
Well, it seemed like... Well, let me put it to you this way. It looked like a bad version of the worms from Dune.
I'd seen worse. I mean,
cardboard
you gotta remember a few months ago, we were doing the Peladon episodes where you had Alpha Centauri who looked like a giant penis. And then worse on the second one, they gave it veins. You got the Verboids that look like,
well, those would be coming up, and those would be technically worse, but still.
Yes. So yeah, the Doctor Who has made some very sexual shaped monsters over its course. I don't know what's
mostly,
up with that.
I would assume by accident, but sometimes you have to sit there and go, "What were the costume people thinking?"
Or what were the
the prop guys thinking? Yeah.
Either way, you kind of go, "What the hell?" It's like I think they had an idea, and by the time they came out, it's like you realize that looks like a flower with a vagina head, right?
Oh
crap!
can't do anything about it now. All right. So, Aaron, how about you? What did you not like about the episode?
I didn't like how the whole discussion of Adric was just kind of brushed off.
Brushed off twice, in fact.
Brushed off twice. There's no lingering effects of Adric's death, as far as we can tell. I mean, occasionally we'll see like an illusion of him, which was also copied in the Five Doctors, if you guys remember.
Yes, yeah, that was. It wasn't Adric that it was in the Five Doctors, but it was Jamie and Zoe to the second Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Adric was an illusion of Adric was.
No, Matthew Waterhouse didn't come back for the Five Doctors.
No, the only other time that Adric would come back as an illusion is when the Fifth Doctor was regenerating.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was part of that illusion.
Yeah, the only reason he was in this episode, by the way, was he was under contract for the rest of season 19.
Jeez.
So
they had him, so they might as well use him, even though he was technically gone.
I think it just rubs salt in the wound that is the BS of Adric's death.
Yeah.
They also filmed this before Earthshock.
Oh.
Yeah.
Even more awkward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wait, didn't Matthew Waterhouse find out that he was going to be killed off when he read the script over someone's shoulder?
No.
No, that was someone else.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knew that he was going to be killed off. He knew he was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he knew he was going to be killed off or not until he read the script. But,
until he read the last couple pages, yeah.
And that was a pretty ballsy decision since they hadn't had a companion die since 1964 or 65.
It felt like
first
such
Doctor.
A gimmick, though. Such a pointless gimmick.
It gave the show teeth, but it gave it the wrong kind of teeth.
Yeah.
The teeth that easily forget.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of forgive them if they had not brought up Adric in the next episode at all. I would have been fine with it, considering the fact that Doctor Who is episodic.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay.
But the fact that they bring him up twice and then immediately forget that it almost happened at all.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, it's Adric, nobody cares.
That is kind of what it felt like. That actually will come across as one of my worst scenes, so I'll talk about it in a bit.
Yeah, move along.
All right, so again, nothing from Bill. Thomas has this to say, what his least favorite scene was. He also had Adric's death as the bad aspect. His immediate dismissal. Yeah, pretty much everything you just said was what Thomas said. Only
so
he added
you and Thomas were on the
and
same
and his short-term thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can see some of it if it was episodic and not serial, but the fact that they decided to deal with it, All right. Tim, how about you? What did you not like about the episode overall?
Overall, this episode seemed to be entirely composed of tell and very little show, in that we were presented with information, but we were never immersed in it. It's like a plane has disappeared. Oh, we're a million years in the past. Oh, the master's trying to get something. Okay, I guess I should be emotionally invested in this, but the people on screen don't seem very emotionally invested in any of this stuff. You know, I mean, occasionally they're like amused, like the airline pilot and the co-pilot seems like, oh, look at that! Wow, the TARDIS is a spaceship, huh? Like, you know, but like even like the scenes where it's like, what does this mean? It means the master has finally defeated me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You
just ring out as hollow as possible, yeah.
You gonna emote any? He's like, nope. Okay.
So wooden acting is your issue.
Yeah.
All right.
And if Tim knows his wooden actors,
Hey.
Okay.
It's probably going to be Tim. He's going to know him.
All right. So what I didn't like about it was the Master's disguise, Khalid. Because, oh my God, that was such a bad Arabian stereotype.
Yeah, that's a bad Arabian stereotype, kind of half hidden into a mud monster.
You know what it reminded me of? The homunculus from Talons of Wine Chiang. He looked very similar to the homunculus, except for the painted face.
Mr. Sin.
Mr. Sin.
Well, speaking of that, that reminded me, I wanted to ask something. Did Talons of Wing Chiang promote a speciesism? Because I got the idea that they were trying to imply that the reason Mr. Sin was so homicidal was that he had the cerebral cortex of a pig. So, wait, that automatically... Are pigs homicidal maniacs? Isn't that a stereotype that...
No, it meant that he didn't have the moral determination of right and wrong that humans have developed.
Oh, okay.
Basically, it's a base animal that'll just do whatever it feels like at the time.
Mm-hmm. It has pig instincts, which, pigs will kill one another. That plus probably cracked to the point of insanity. Yeah.
Alright, well, thanks for clearing that up. Sorry for the little tangent.
Yeah.
It's alright, but yeah, this kind of... Also, the fact that this get-up was not necessary.
Yeah, it really wasn't necessary, and it was kind of stupid. And I mean, for a master disguise, I actually thought it would have been better if that was a red herring. If Khalid had been some kind of weird Arabian offset, and it was Professor Hader that was the master.
Yeah, I actually thought that was going to happen. Like, I didn't know Khalid was the master at first. Like, I thought it was...
Because, God, that was a horrible bit of...
I think the mustache ruined it for me.
I was just kind of waiting for him to look in the thing and go, Sim Sim Salabim, because it was that fucking bad. I'm like sitting here going, oh my God, this is grown worthy.
Just about.
Alright, so your favorite scene.
Oh,
and
gosh.
Matt.
Favorite scene. Don't let me punch myself in the face or anything. Actually, I think my favorite scene, I'm gonna go with, we just looked them up. The Zerafen, the two Zerafen fighting each other, and then the Doctor and companions helping in that fight to let the good ones win, while the Master's outside finishing up his plans, not that they will actually work in his favor by the end.
All right. Aaron?
But I like that inner conflict in that race, and that the good could still outwin itself.
All right. All right, Aaron, how about you?
I think...
We're gonna have a hard time finding good scenes.
Yeah.
Actually, I found out a second one.
Don't.
I'm not gonna give it to Aaron.
I can't.
Because then you'll probably steal mine, Matt. That's my issue.
Yeah, because I can't really think of one offhand. I was going to say, I guess I'll say this one. Okay, so I did like the idea of Nyssa being possessed, because it explained why she suddenly had all this psychic intuition that she had never shown before. At least not that I remember.
Well, I think her people are supposed to have a little bit of it, but yeah, this will explain why she's having a huge surge of it.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, but I feel this is bad, and I feel that is bad. I'm like, what are you, a Jedi? But this kind of explains things, and it was also kind of creepy. So, yep, I'll say that.
All right, so Thomas's best scene was Professor Hader essentially sacrificing himself for Nyssa and being absorbed into the power source thingy. But the fact that he does it more so out of a lust for knowledge than wanting to save someone he barely knows. a nice change of pace, though not something you could do regularly.
Yeah, but it's also a nice touch that they actually bring him back as apparently an energy being that helps save the Doctor later.
He becomes the Star Child.
Pretty much.
What are you now? Something wonder.
I'm Star Child, Doctor. Bye-bye. Boop.
All right.
The cosmos.
All right, so Tim, how about you? What was your favorite scene?
I love the scene at near the very end where the 3 airline pilots are trying to explain where they've been to their supervisors. Like, oh yeah, so that's not a police box, that's a spaceship. We went back in time, and they know that what they're saying sounds ridiculous to thing, but they're just going along with it. So it was it was a very fun moment, I think.
All right, I'm going to do the counterpoint to that. I like it when the Doctor name drops Unit at the beginning, and they call up Unit, and they're just like, okay, we're supposed to give him a full access to everything. And it's just the sheer amount of shocked disbelief that they did manage to pull off in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the one piece of acting that actually happened.
Can I mention my backup?
Yeah, go ahead.
The exchange with the Doctor and the Master in the last act.
I thought that was a little wishy-washy myself.
It's a little wishy-washy, but there are some good moments in there still, and especially when the Doctor and the Master are literally handing each other those last 2 devices.
Yeah, well, that's Peter Davidson and Anthony Ainley, both of which are good at playing their perspective roles. Just don't give Ainley Khalid again, please.
Yes, please. But okay. Also, a nice little joke was the end cards for the first episode. They messed with Ainley's name, so it didn't come out as Ainley.
It was an anagram of Tony Ainley.
Mm-hmm.
Enough that you wouldn't have put it together unless you were really trying.
Unless you were looking for it, yeah. And I saw it and I'm like, ha ha.
Ha ha, alias.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Filkin7. Yeah.
Fake name.
All right. What's the worst scene, Matt?
Surprise! It was me all along. Like we couldn't tell.
It was I, Dio, all along. Yeah.
You never suspect, Doctor, because you're an idiot and you didn't notice my mustache.
Yeah, apparently people are good at recognizing mustaches these days. Justice League.
As a matter of fact, actually, yeah, here's the reveal face on Ainley. He's all laughter and giggles.
Yeah, and especially coming from the dying, where he's barfing up blue...
The greenish gook all over the place, yeah.
Yeah, that was a little kind of what the fucky.
Mm-hmm.
At least this time you didn't constantly say, you still haven't figured out who I am. You still haven't, like the last time.
Mm-hmm.
Facepalm.
You mean John Sims?
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of like that it was haunting her. But no,
taunting and haunting him, yeah.
Him. Jeffrey Beavers was doing Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was somewhat effective, but they could have done 1 or 2 less of those.
Okay, Aaron, how about you? What was the worst scene? Worst scene ever?
The puppet.
Which puppet?
The multi-headed beastie that forms out of nowhere to menace the pilots.
The 2-headed monster, yes.
Yeah, the 2-headed monster with the puppet, yeah. Why, did someone already say that?
Matt
no, we didn't claim it as a scene. I just mentioned it as a bad effect.
Yeah. I will specifically say that it's a bad scene.
Yeah. Yes, we need to have the
menaced by Muppet.
Menaced by Cock Hydra Muppet.
This isn't phallic, is it?
Now,
this creature over here, by the way, folks.
After he retired, he tried to get hired on Avenue Q, but they wouldn't have him. All right. Again, no Bill and Thomas. What he didn't like. Tegan, we were supposed to go to the Great Exhibition. We will eventually. That's all you ever say. You promised. Your other friend died minutes ago. Now you're bitching about not being able to go to some festival you could easily go to whenever you want. And I don't know. Does he know what the Great Exhibition is?
The thing is that they're in a time machine. They can visit the Great Exhibition anytime they want.
Yes, but this is the Peter Davidson era. How often does Peter Davidson go where he's trying to go?
Depends on the season.
Okay.
He does keep missing the Eye of Orion a lot, though.
He does try missing the Eye of Orion. He tries repeatedly to get Tegan to Heathrow, and fails.
When the mood strikes
one they're
him.
trying to get to is the Great Exhibition, known as also the Crystal Palace Exhibition. It was basically the equivalent of the World's Fair in 1851. It is the first World's Fair. And if you remember, the World's Fair was a big thing for like 100 years after that. They would have one every 2 to 3 years at different places all over. We had a few of them here in the United States, but...
The Chicago World's Fair was the one that everyone remembers.
The St. Louis one, too.
The White City.
Yep.
That's the Chicago one.
Yeah, there were World's Fairs all over. The Great Exhibition. The next one was the Paris International Exhibition at London. It was London and France for a while, and then Austria had one. Then the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition, France, Australia, Spain. The Chicago World's Fair of 1893, the St. Louis World's Fair of 1904, the San Francisco World's Fair of 1915, Century of Progress, again in Chicago, the New York World's Fair. These were big, events that were a media thing. Actually, they still have them, but they haven't been in our part of the world for a while.
Yeah, we have a lot of, tech conventions that kind of have taken the place of this. E3, and not just gaming conventions, but, tech conventions like E3. I can't think of any others because I'm not a super huge tech person, but still.
The last World's Fair we had in the United States was 1984 in New Orleans.
Yeah.
After that, the following year, there was one in Japan. Bulgaria, there was one in Vancouver in 86, one in Australia, and since then it's been mostly in, European and East European countries, with the exception of a couple that were in South Korea and Japan. And the last one was this year in Kazakhstan. What the fuck?
Yikes. Anyway.
I
think it's Tim's turn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so worst scene. I was very, very disappointed in Anthony Ainley for giving the worst reading of the line, "I am the master and you will obey me." It is no. I mean, you had a chance to do right by Roger Delgado, and you blew it.
You blew it up!
What scene was this?
It's, where he comes out of the TARDIS, or, the column, and he says to this one person, "Stop, I'm the master and you will obey me," and then he just walks off, he just tosses it out. He's like, no, that's a master line. Say it like a master.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're surprised, considering he's the camp master. You would have thought he would have hammed it up for all it's worth.
Yeah, and there was another chance for that, too, before he revealed himself to be... Actually, no, right after he revealed himself to be the master. There's, one... No. Actually, no, it was before, so never mind. He wouldn't have done it. It was too obvious.
All right.
But yeah, that was his one chance, and...
So the worst scene to me is the Doctor explaining why they can't go back and pick up Adric. And because this is such horrible bullshit.
Yeah. It is quite literally bullshit that he should have been able to save Adric.
Mm-hmm. It's like... It's like, no, that would change the course of history. Why? He's fucking there by time travel. I mean... They hadn't come up with the concept of fixed points by then.
It is literally...
Go ahead. If it was a fixed point, you fucking saved everyone else on the ship. You already fucked it up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is literally like the most minor of milestones to push since you saved everybody else already.
I know, and it's the basis for my belief that they could still bring Adric back if he were rescued by something like the Master or something like that.
Well, they can't bring him back now. Matthew Waterhouse is too fucking old to be able to pull that off of them.
They could play an older version.
I mean, they could possibly do it on Big Finish, but there's no way they could do it in the live action.
Well, they could do it in live action. They just bring him back old. He's been gone for like years and years and years trying to track down the Doctor to get an answer. Yes,
but getting it back, he would have to go back in time and pick him up in that instant.
But you just skipped what Aaron said. Randy,
yeah, you just skipped what I said.
Literally, the idea is that the Doctor isn't the one that picks him up. It's somebody else, and he goes through years of time travel first before finding the Doctor again.
Mm-hmm. And by that time, he's become an old man. Maybe approaches Sarah Sutton's older Nyssa to find out where the Doctor is. Nyssa doesn't know, but is willing to help him find him.
That actually no, I'd actually prefer that in Big Finish. That would be a very interesting companion chronicle, or something to do in the main range, where he winds up with Peter Davidson's Doctor picking up an older Nyssa to do something, and they run into this old Adric who's like old and bitter.
Yeah,
and
like, why did you abandon me, Doctor?
Yeah,
you left me to die.
He maybe turns.
I could see it done both ways, but it depends upon who's the one coaching that story.
Yeah, it would really depend.
It's more likely to be well done on Big Finish, but if the right writers and directors are behind it, then it could easily be done on the show too.
I can even see Adric as an inadvertent ally of the Master. The Master using him once again to get to the Doctor.
Or a villain in his own right.
Mm-hmm.
Or becoming a villain in his own right, yeah. A villain that the Doctor has actually accidentally made for himself.
She's trying to hatch this plan to go back to E-Space. Only he's going to have to burn up the rest of the universe to do it, but he doesn't fucking care.
Or smash a giant hole that could suck the rest of the universe into it, too.
Yeah, but he doesn't care because he's been abandoned by everybody that he cared about. Yeah, that would be great freaking...
That would actually make for some good villain motivation.
I may have to write this. Like I don't have enough on my plate. Fuck you guys.
Notes.
Picture it, Randy. Picture it.
Copyright idea, Aaron.
No, I'm making my own spin on it. And I'm not quite sure how I'd end it, but either way, it's something to think about. But yeah, it's just the way that they explained it was such a crock of shit.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a crock of completely bullshit ad-lib crap that it makes no sense if you think about it, because either he could save Adric or he couldn't have saved anybody on the ship. That was kind of an A or B thing. And it doesn't explain why he can't show up at the last minute, stick his hand out and go, "Come with me." You know?
Or literally land the TARDIS on him as he's watching the last few moments and then zip back out again.
Yep. It just, I don't know.
In a word, bullshit.
Yep. Okay, final thoughts. Let's go to final thoughts.
Final thoughts. So it goes to me right away.
Yep.
And
so final thoughts. You'll get to rate it first, too.
Oh, this is going to be joy again. Final thoughts. The plot moved along smoothly enough. There's only a few tiny moments of fluff, but they were to help separate characters to do important things later. However, The Master's disguise is pointless. Half of the effects felt like they were a bit rushed. The whole way that characters act because of bad writing just makes you really kind of frustrated with our main cast for a change. And it just culminates into this hodgepodge, let's just hurry this along and get this master story done kind of feel by the end, with a few good moments sprinkled in here and there.
All right. Is that all you got to say?
Pretty much.
That's all he's got to say about that. All right, Aaron, how about you?
I'll be honest, I slept through part of this.
I tried to keep her awake, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to stay awake. I really did.
I was farming in Minecraft.
Yeah.
I was deeding on Lotro.
I was going to deed on Lotro, and there was like all this weirdness, and my window was shrunken, and I couldn't get the game to work properly.
So you just gave up, and then you started to nap.
Yeah, I went and kind of took a nap towards, I think, between the 3rd and 4th episode, because it drags on. It just drags on. There's no tension. There's no tension. I was a little bit surprised when the Master revealed himself, but then I was like, oh, not even the Master can make this episode fun.
Nope.
Yeah, it's just like you have one of the most intriguing and interesting villains, and
you made him do a bad stereotype for like half the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even enjoyably bad. Well, some parts of it are.
No, it's not.
Menace by Muppet was kind of funny, but...
Alright. So, Thomas says, to be honest, while this is easily one of the weakest Doctor Who stories he's ever seen, he must admit it's not anywhere near as bad as its reputation made him think it would be. It's still a weak story with a lot of confusing decisions having been made, but ultimately it ended up being a story that just exists rather than one that makes him want to break the DVD. Alright, that's actually pretty favorable by that. Tim, what's your thoughts?
Okay, from what you built up last week, I was all set to like really tear this apart, and like I upped my criticalness.
Put your critical specs on.
Specs. And I said, yes, this is a rather weak episode with some wooden acting and not very... If the stakes are high, I couldn't tell from like the way it was presented, but it was a story that did, didn't seem to have too many like unnecessary tangents, but still, I was left just basically unimpressed overall. But I'll agree with Thomas in that it wasn't as bad as the reputation merited, I think.
Yeah, well, the reputation comes from largely interviews with the production cast. Apparently, most of them despise this episode with a passion. Anyway, I was also... thought it was better than I thought coming into it with really low expectations on what it was. To be honest, I think when it aired in the 80s, I literally could not focus on the episode because it's boring. It's an exceedingly boring episode, and even I was lolling a bit while watching it just out of sheer boredom. There's absolutely no dramatic tension. All the acting is wood, except for the main characters, and Ainley's is just stupidity. The special effects are so-so at best. This episode is mediocre to poor. It's not Bargain Basement. It's not Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
No.
Where you don't hate and despise everything you're looking at. But you don't enjoy yourself in this episode. You're left wanting something else. If this was a movie, I'd be thinking about getting my money back. All right. So ratings. And Matt, you're first up with the pointage.
With no real threat behind the enemies, and with how lackluster some of the stuff was compared to how it could have been, I can't give this any higher than a 2.5. It's not quite mediocre. I think it's a downgrade from mediocre.
All right, 2.5 from Matt. Aaron?
Just really meh.
I'm gonna go ahead, and this is just really forgettable. I'm gonna put this along with the Twin Dilemma, which was kind of bad, but not completely unforgettable. I don't know. I'm gonna put this at 2.0.
All right, Aaron gives it a 2.0.
2.25.
2.0. Thomas agrees with Aaron and gives it a 2.0.
Ooh.
Bill, of course, we don't have tonight, so we'll get his next time. Tim.
I remember last week I gave the episode 3.0, and this was not any better than the last one, and I think it was just a bit worse, so I'm going to agree with Matt and give this a 2.5.
2.5. And I am going to agree with Aaron and Thomas, and I'm going to give this a 2.0. Do I even want to go
So 2.2, thereabouts.
Actually, I'm debating dropping to 1.5, but no, I think it's just barely enough to squeak by on a 2.
Ooh.
So,
I think for something to be less than 2, it has to make me angry.
That's kind of my thing, but mind you, there's not a lot going for this episode.
Nope.
And there's a lot going against it. Bad special effects, even for its time period. Bad writing, and the fact that there's no tension.
Bad character development.
And it's wooden acting. It all kind of, it's like, you start at a 3, and it's like 2.5, 2.0, 1.5. It's basically about a 1.76 on my personal list, which just barely bumps it to a 2. So anyway, with all that, it averages out to a 2.2, which data sort. Yeah.
Compiling.
Yeah, pretty much. This is gonna be a lowbie. Oh yeah, I can see it from where I am here on the list. Coming in at number 214 of 226. It is on par with The Two Doctors.
Oof. Yeah, I remember we were harsh with that one.
Sleep No More.
Oof.
And it is worse than Torchwood Day 1. That's the sex alien one. The Wedding of River Song. And Trouble in Paradise from Destiny of the Doctor. Wow.
Sank like a rock.
Yeah. Episodes below it in our list are Time of the Angels, Flesh and Stone, Power of 3, Terror of the Vervoids, Kill the Moon, The Snowmen, Name of the Doctor, Class the Lost, Cyberwoman, Twin Dilemma, and Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. It is that far from the cellar, people.
Ooh.
Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, the only
just a
one
few
on our
walks.
List
It's so dark, deep and dark
1.0.
into the shadows. It can make out the edges of the TARDIS's face.
Bill was looking for a basement dweller. This is definitely down in the sub-basement, if not the basement itself.
This one doesn't even need cement shoes.
Nope. So 2.2 out of and 214 out of 226. That's all we have to say about Time Flight.
To the bottom
crap.
of you.
Crap. And Bill got rid of all the... Do you have any blurbs about subscribing to us, Matt, that you could pull up?
I can manage.
Yeah, please do, because Bill removed all of that from the bottom of the episode outline.
So swapping over to our final image. So thank you all very much for watching an Unearthly Podcast. We will see you all next week. If you want to keep watching us, you can catch us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast. You can check out our Twitter at Unearthly Podcast. And you also watch us live on Twitch on Unearthly Podcast. Actually, the Twitter is at Unearthly Pod. Facebook, you can follow us at Unearthly Podcast. And if you want to help out financially speaking with the show, you can always join our Patreon at an Unearthly Podcast.
All right, so next week we go from the basement horrible of Peter Davidson's Time Flight to the basement horrible more for Peter Davidson as we deal with the next appearance of the Master, masquerading as, I think King John or something like that.
Oh, God. Oh, God, that one.
Oh, yes, that one. We are going to review The King's Demons, written by Terrence Dudley and starring Peter Davidson as the Doctor, Janet Fielding as Tegan, Mark Strickson as Turlough, and Anthony Ainley as the Master, and introducing the worst and most forgotten companion in Doctor Who history, Chameleon.